Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Sunday service of Now Creations. Always a joy to remind you that your most precious consciousness is the awareness of the God Spirit that you are. It's always your identity. Don't be fooled. Don't be duped. Always know that that presence within you, that God Spirit at the very center of your being, is the center of yourself. Also, I'd like to invite those of you that have been joining us to join us again on Sunday evening tonight for our Return to Love. Tremendous group of people. It's a wonderful book. I invite you to join us from 7 to 8:30. Let's begin. My dear friends, as we continue to grow in spiritual awareness, we clearly understand that we are not ostriches. We are not ostriches that have our heads in the sand. We clearly understand that we live in the everyday world of life, and we desire to bring our spirituality to bear on worldly issues. While we clearly understand that our spiritual awareness guides our worldly view of things, we also realize that the third dimensional world has a lot of issues in it. Thus, it becomes important for us to understand the third dimensional issues of life with a sense of clarity and strength, and not allow the immediate issues of the third dimension to interrupt our advancement on our spiritual path. Yet also, to bring our spiritual understanding to the issues at hand. Thus, in today's teaching, I will focus on a contemporary issue of seeming unfairness, and then address two levels of resolution, and then add a third, that such seeming unfairness desperately needs. Thus, the topic of today's teaching is understanding unfairness. Let me begin this presentation with two quotes that will resonate throughout today's teaching. The first is from Rudolf Steiner in his wonderful book, Occult Science, an Outline. These are his words. Those for whom the time has come will recognize it. Those for whom the time has come will recognize it. The second is a general quote that is quite powerful and applies to many situations in life. When a person takes a strong stand, the spines of others are strengthened. When a person takes a strong stand, the spines of others are strengthened. As I said, these two quotes will resonate throughout today's teaching. That's unfair. That's unjust. That's just plain wrong. Many times we have felt these words in our own personal experiences, especially when perhaps we have felt victimized, but they especially seem warranted in today's very difficult moment of the situation in Minnesota, the situation where the people there in our country have had to deal with this during the last several months. It's unfair. It's wrong. There seems to be many external injustices wrought by people and situations that seem so unfair. Anything from inflammatory words to ruthless attacks. Such difficult moments are important to understand for those of us who are on a spiritual path, especially one that includes and embraces all of the people involved, whether they be victims, perpetrators, or rescuers. Thus, what I would like to do is to share with you three coordinated levels, of how to understand unfairness, But let me first begin with a comment. You would have noticed that already 3 times in today's teaching that I have used the word seeming to describe unfairness. Obviously, I've done so intentionally for the following reason. For those of us on a spiritual path, we realize that there are no random events simply left to fate. We clearly understand that each person draws to themselves the circumstances of their lives, either through their soul's direction or through their human interactions. Let me repeat this. There are no random events in life. There are no fates or destinies. We clearly understand that each person draws to themselves the circumstances of their lives, either through their soul's direction or through their human intentions. Without this basic realization, understanding unfairness will have no meaning. But with this realization, seeming unfairness can be grasped and understood. Thus, let me now address the 3 ascending levels of understanding unfairness for those of us who are on a spiritual path. Today's is a very important teaching. I encourage you to go over it several times until you have absorbed it for yourself, and that you would be able to sit down and at least explain the concepts to someone else. One last introductory comment. Realize that other people might not agree with these views, which hopefully might become your views. That the truth is the truth, regardless of who accepts it or not. I believe the following 3 levels are the best way to understand seeming unfairness. The first level. The first level is one that many of us are acquainted with in Now Creations. We have referenced it many times, and it has a solid 3rd dimensional basis, yet also a 5th dimensional overview. This is the teaching that applies to any situation. It is what it is, that it becomes what you make of it, and it's always for your growth. I'll say it again. It is what it is, but it becomes what you make of it, and it's always for your growth. This teaching is not just a warm, fuzzy quote, but it pertains very, very accurately to the 3rd dimensional situation that we have experienced in Minnesota during these past several months. There's no need for us to be ostriches with our heads in the sand. For some people, however, all that they see is the external event, and therefore easily shout out, "That's unfair! That's unfair!" What is important is to move beyond simply the 3rd dimensional event, which is what it is, and to come to what's the meaning of the event, and especially what is the meaning of the event, not just for the participants involved, but for all of us. who also witness these events. For everyone, it becomes what you make of it. And yes, of course, different people will make different things of it. And yet, however complex the situation might be, and however divergent the opinions of the meaning might be, it will be for the growth of all of the people involved, which at the moment could run the gamut from further separation or to the dawning of the understanding of togetherness. It is precisely this teaching that I offer to you as the first level of understanding seeming unfairness. It is what it is, that it becomes what you make of it. And it's always for your growth. These are words of wisdom. May you truly be instructive of listening to those words deeply within yourself and allow them to be instructive for you on your spiritual path. The second level of understanding seeming unfairness. Let's begin with a comment made by many people. The two people were killed. Two people were killed. This is the truth of what occurred. And the emotions that were involved very, very strongly with so many people necessitate a further understanding of seeming unfairness. To address this issue, we need to look to the Eastern teaching of reincarnation. This teaching is not very well understood in Western culture and seems to offer only a sugar coating to the real events that occurred. Thus, it's about time for those of us in Western culture to come to a clear understanding of the meaning of reincarnation and the issues involved. Let's start with the meaning of the word reincarnation itself. The etymology of the word and its meaning very simply is again in the flesh. Again in the flesh. The question then that arises is who or what is again in the flesh? And the answer is it is not the person's life again in the flesh. Let me say it again. It's not as though the person is going to live again in the flesh. Rather, it is the soul's life again in the flesh. And again, let me repeat this. It is the soul's life that is again in the flesh. It is the soul that reincarnates into another body. Western culture fails to have a clear understanding of the difference between the present life of a person and the larger life of the soul that has projected that person's life. We need to hear this again and again. Western culture doesn't understand the difference between the individual life of the person and the larger life of the soul that has projected that person's life. Western culture limits the understanding of one's life just to one life. And thus they say, that's unfair. That's unfair. Western culture limits the meaning of one's life only to that life, failing to understand that one's life is one of many lives that the soul has in its reincarnations. Thus, from the soul's perspective, which hopefully now is becoming your perspective, from the soul's perspective, that one life has a very important meaning, but only in the context of the larger understanding of the soul's many reincarnations. Seen from this larger reincarnation perspective, thus the human lives that were taken in Minnesota have a much larger meaning from the soul's reincarnation perspective. From the soul's reincarnation perspective, these two lives were not unfairly taken, but on the contrary, were given to teach the moral lessons of life that the present situation warrants. We need to hear that again. From the soul's perspective, these two lives were not taken, but rather were given to teach the moral lessons. From the soul's perspective, that's a situation warrants. From the soul's perspective, both of these persons were meant to give their lives precisely at this point for the greater meaning of the issues involved. Now let's be clear. You have to sit down and be quiet and absorb this teaching. Don't simply have an opinion about it. You need to sit with this idea of reincarnation and see how you feel more deeply about it within yourself. As you do, I remind you that your personal life will someday come to an end, and then you will have to answer the question, is your life just one and done? Or will your soul come forward and thank you for your present life well lived, which will now add to your soul's knowledge for the soul's next reincarnation? It's a good question to ask yourself. With this larger reincarnation perspective, and because you no longer identify with your limited human perspective, and now understand yourself as an eternal soul spirit, you will be less apt to say it's unfair, and much more inclined to see how the events of one's life are woven into a larger understanding of the soul's meaning. Having presented this second notion of reincarnation to supplement the first teaching that an event is what it is, becomes what you make of it, and is always for your growth, let me now address the practical aspects of living this understanding of life in contemporary society. The third level of understanding concerning the seeming unfairness is that you are now ready to be a difference maker. I trust that you will be a difference maker in the midst of all of the clamor that life is unfair. This is not easy to do, not because so much of who you are, but whereas so many other people, especially your family members and friends, still have that narrow vision of human life just being one and done, and thus unfair for these people. Thus, I would like to suggest the following 3 suggestions of how you might approach these issues. And in the process of offering these understandings that you might be a difference maker in contemporary society with a much more realistic understanding of life. The first point. The first point is you're different now. You are different now. It's not that you haven't experienced unfairness in your life, times when you felt unfairly treated, or perhaps you were the one that treated others unfairly. But now you are different. You have chosen to follow a more spiritual path in your life, and thus you see things very, very, very clearly now that you had not seen before. You now know these three things that have made such a difference for you. It enables you to assist others to see things differently. First, you have finally come to realize that you really are an eternal soul spirit and not your simple, limited personality self. Even when you want to moan and groan about your limitations, you know that you're bigger than your present problems. I have said the following on numerous occasions. I believe that your change of identity from the limited personality self to your conscious soul spirit has been the basis for the longevity of your life and the increased quality of your living. You know better now. You're different. The second point, what has made the difference is not just that you have a different view of life, but in fact, that you now do things differently. Let me explain. You have come to understand that you know that you have a bigger sense of who you are, that the identification of yourself as an eternal soul spirit has brought a new sense of being and acting in you. You do your daily spiritual practices, and you have come to experience that deeper spiritual response from within yourself. You do your daily spiritual practices, and you know that you're bigger inside than you used to be. You're bigger. You understand more because you practice more. Truly, it's like you have finally responded to the call of God. That somehow that God spirit that has been waiting for you to respond, that God spirit waiting for you to respond, seemingly now has been heard, so that your God spirit can now fill your life with so many more blessings. In a sense, you have answered your calling. You have answered your calling to be the love of God in human form. You're a difference maker. And then, because of that, you have now been able to address this third point. Not only have you been able to heed your own call, but you also have been able to heed the call of oneness with all others. Even those who still see themselves perhaps as perpetrators, victims, or rescuers. With this call to oneness has many, many complexities to it, many things that are very difficult. But the key point is that you are making a difference. For now, you are making a difference not only for others, but also for yourself and for all of humanity, which are the second and third areas that we're now going to examine as we proceed. So, first area, you were a difference maker. The second aspect of you making a difference in society that often continues to be unfair, we have to be honest with that, it does, is that you have developed a stability pattern. You have developed a stability pattern of fairness. Listen closely. You have developed what I call source frequencies. You have developed what I call source frequencies. You no longer get rattled. You display the source frequency of calmness. Rather than criticizing and blaming, you display the source frequency of understanding. Instead of just sitting idly by, you display the source frequency of presence, but always with the sense of doing what is truly appropriate. Many of you have shared these source frequencies of making such a difference with so many people in your lives. And in this process, you truly see that you are making, constructing, building a stability pattern for others. Wow. Wow. When they are in your presence, they are less confused. They're more apt to be understanding, as you have been. And make no mistake about it. You're inviting people to presence. You are inviting others to hold the very same presence that you are now holding. You have assisted them to establish a stability pattern in their lives. The third aspect of being a difference maker is that you are helping people, and this is enormous, to feel safe again in life. Again, let me explain. As you become different in yourself, and as you become an example of stability patterns for others, you have also awakened a sense of safety, not only in yourself, but in others as well. In addition to dealing with all of the externals of life that can result in shouts of unfairness, you have established for yourself and are now able to invite others to a sense of inner safety, inner security, that whatever seems to be happening on the outside of your life, whatever is happening out there, has the deeper meaning. And before people too quickly consider life to be unfair, they and you are first looking within to find direction as to the meaning of the event. This change of direction from excessive outside situations to one's inner guidance where there is strength has been quite a shift for you and for others to experience. You have become a bottom line of safety in your own life. You know that presence within you. You know that presence within you that is greater than the seeming unfairness and the externals of life. You have built your life on the rock that Jesus talked about, the rock of that eternal soul spirit, not the shifting sands that come and go with the wind and rain. Life is no longer unfair for you and for the many that you have been able to share, because you have established the meaning of life from your spiritual center. Is this not true? In conclusion, I hope that I have presented a teaching wherein the seeming unfairness of life are energies that play out among souls and their human personality projections. But the purpose of such events for all of the participants is to understand the meaning of the soul and the human personality that we are able to give to these events as we understand their meaning better. I encourage you to take the time to please listen to this teaching. Listen to it several times. And proceed then, of course, as you see fit to make a difference. In Now Creations, we will continue to encourage our members to look beneath the seeming unfairness of life and focus on the meaning that the event has for all of us. As Rudolf Steiner said so well, those for whom the time has come will recognize it. Let me now take you into meditation, with joy to do so. From a third dimensional perspective, life does seem to be unfair. Devoid of meaning. It's a tragedy. Many people in life see it like that. It shows up that way often in newspapers and in newscasts. It is what it is. It becomes what you make it. And it's always for your growth. Well, we have to be sensitive. We have to be sensitive in how we apply these teachings within ourselves, but especially with others. We have to understand the truth. The real tragedy would be if that life had no meaning at all now. If that's all there was to it, a one and done, seemingly tragically ended. Reincarnation, again in the flesh. You'll have a much easier time to understand reincarnation if right now, today, you clearly understand who you are. Right now, today, right now, today, you are a conscious, eternal soul spirit. And when your present personality sojourn has been completed, adding to the growth of your soul, your soul will more than likely reincarnate here again. Having been advanced are your contribution to it. Just as those who came before you have added to your present awareness. These understandings take time. You have to sit with them, weigh them, look at what they mean to you, so that you can really see how substantial they truly are. It is my hope that you will take the time to do so that you could explain these ideas to a friend of yours or a family member. When and if the time would be appropriate. Just realize that you're becoming a difference maker. You're making a difference. First of all, in your own life, you've changed. But by consistently modeling a strong, centered spiritual behavior, you're helping others in the midst of a lot of their confusions. Just a lot of people are just lost out there, just lost. And then you're able to give them those stability patterns. Giving people a sense of safety. You are giving people those source frequencies, those source frequencies of calmness. Let's take a look at it. Let's see what it means. Of understanding, looking below the surface. And most of all, you're bringing presence. You're bringing presence to the situation. When a strong person takes the stand, the spines of others are strengthened. There are just moments where you need to take a stand. Don't have to be harsh, don't have to be argumentative. You do have to know what you stand for. And those for whom the time has come will recognize it. And in that energy, let me invite you back to your breath. Nice, easy breathing. We've had a powerful teaching this morning. May you come to know it and to live it. And be a source of enrichment to others. And in that energy, in the confidence in it, let me invite you to gently breathe your eyes open. I am an eternal being of light and love. Thus, only good can come to me, and only good can come from me. And we are eternal beings of light and love. Thus, only good can come to us, and only good can come from us. Namaste.